As you're looking at the inferior surface of the brain, we're discussing connective tissues that cover the brain. So they're meninges. So this one that goes into all the sulci and covers all the gyri would be pia mater. This one that stretches across but is kind of spiderweb-like looking is the middle meninx, and it's called arachnoid. Then if we roll over, the outer toughest mother would be a continuation of this one over the top of the arachnoid, and that's dura mater. But notice that the dura mater makes a double fold right here in the great longitudinal fissure. That specialized dura mater is called the falx cerebra. And in a similar way, there's dura mater that comes in here, makes a double fold between it and the cerebellum. So in this model, once again, here's your falx cerebra, but that's the fold where you'd have cerebellum down here, cerebrum up here. That's your tentorium cerebelli. Double fold of dura mater again. This is your hypophysis, better known as the pituitary gland, and it is attached to the brain by a little stem stalk, and that's called the infundibulum. The area of the brain that it's attached to looks like a little bird's beak. That's your hypothalamus. So in front of the infundibulum is the optic chiasma. Behind the infundibulum is a little goosebump called the mammillary body. Then we're getting into the brainstem. The brainstem has three main regions: cerebral peduncle, pons virolii, medulla oblongata. You're not in the brainstem anymore when you see a central canal, because the central canal runs through the spinal cord. Parts of the brain that are seen in a mid-sagittal section, here's a big axon tract that joins the two cerebral hemispheres together. It's called the corpus callosum. This end is the genu, this end is the splenium. This smell tract is called the fornix, and between the fornix and the corpus callosum, you see a membrane that partitions the left from the right ventricle in the brain, right lateral ventricle from left lateral ventricle. That's called your septum pellucidum. This allows you to go, it's a foramen that allows you to go from this left lateral ventricle depression called the third ventricle. So that's the interventricular foramen. If you're leaving the third ventricle, the cerebral aqueduct, end up in this triangle, which is the fourth ventricle. You can get out of the fourth ventricle sideways, foramen of Luschka, or you can get out of it by going down in the central canal of the spinal cord or down the back of the spinal cord through this little foramen, which is called the foramen of Magendie. If we go back up in the space known as the third ventricle, this space had a floor, hypothalamus, the bird beak. It has lateral, the thalamus, and it has a connection between the right and left side, and that connection looks like a little bird eye. That's called the massa intermedia, or the interthalamic adhesion. Model, there's your mouth again. There is a pink tadpole-looking gland, pineal body, pineal gland, and above it are some capillary beds in the brain called your choroid plexus. They would also be up in your lateral ventricles and fourth ventricles as well. This is two lumps, and there'd be two on the other side, so they make up the corpora quadrigemina, superior colliculi and inferior colliculi. This is your cerebellum, but the white matter in the cerebellum is your arbor vitae. If we put the two halves of the brain together, you see olfactory bulb, olfactory tract. You see optic nerve, and where it intersects the other side is the optic chiasma. You see lateral fissure. You see a sulcus, a superficial groove. You see a gyrus, an outfolding. You see a division between your frontal lobe and your parietal lobe right here, which is called the central sulcus or fissure of Rolando. This lobe back here would be your occipital lobe. This is your temporal lobe. If I open up this lateral fissure, I get to a hidden lobe. Ooh. Sorry. The hidden lobe was called the insula or Isle of Ryle, and that's a gustatory center. You'll have to do the other things on that.